Okay. Now let me just see. Is that working? Audioausgabe Aufnahme ist das auf? Nein, nicht. So. Das müsste reichen. Okay, let's just catch up on some daily matches just as we get started. And maybe play some Puzzle Rush while we wait to see if anyone shows up this time. Okay, what have we got here? Oh, we've got an extremely annoying knight. Let's see, where can it go? Okay, it's rather annoying if it goes to D6 there, where it'll be protected by this fucking pawn. Actually, no. Well, yeah, that would actually be quite annoying. Although, really. Let's see. And then, other than that, we've got. That's basically the only move it's got. So. Okay, now what moves have I got here? Okay, I'm kind of boxed in by these bloody pawns. I think I want to stop that advance more than anything at the moment, otherwise it'll fuck up my king side. Okay, and other one. Let's increase the attack on that queen. And okay, it's caught up on the daily games. Puzzle Rush. Let's do a little bit of that. Okay, that knight is hanging. And that's mate. Well, now it is. And there we go. That's mate. And so is that. And I believe this is made in two. Yeah, nothing for black to do there. Also mate. Queen for a bishop. Okay. And what does this get me? And I think I'm walking out of this one with a free rook. Well, nearly free. Okay. Gonna guess that this is to do with getting myself... Well, actually... Oh, can't do that because of the bloody pin. But I can do that. Okay, let's see. think I must be sacking this rook. And okay. Believe this is going to be at least a free rook. Oh, wait a second. What happens if I go here? No, I just right now speculating. So I go there. Let's check. King can't move anywhere around there. So I guess then we get this. At which point we have this, since the light squared bishop covers the h1 square. And what's left for the king at that point? The king still can't go here. I think I was supposed to just take that fucking rook. Okay. There we go. Okay, what am I doing here? Okay. Not. Okay, what about. Okay, checks. Well, I mean, I can. That's check, but it's also suck. Any other checks I've got here? Can't check with the knight here. Rook on f1 is totally boxed in at the moment by that bishop. But if I go here, it's mate in 1, and the queen is the only way to prevent that. Ah, bollocks. Okay. What is this even? Okay. bollocks. Hands are so dry. Play a little bit of Blitz. Alright. He's playing that H6 move that seems to be popular lately. I'll just stop that right now. Okay. Okay. Kind of has to retreat because otherwise it's just a trade, and it's a trade that is not in their favor. Okay, I'm a pawn up. Actually, if I'm gonna trade, rather just trade that. Let's begin occupying this diagonal a little bit more emphatically. Wonder if I can find a way to get this light squared bishop onto a worse diagonal. Oh, thank you. Well, that was obliging. Oh, and now as a bonus, I'm attacking that bloody rook. Yeah, it's not a whole lot that can be done there. Find someplace slightly less exposed for this. So now. Woody. Up a piece. Up 7 seconds in time, although I do need to be watching the clock a little bit more than I am. Oh, if I go over here, I can put them in check. And hello. And how are you doing this evening? I have to concentrate for a second here because this is a blitz game and I'm not exactly long on time. But why do you ask? That works for me. Ah, shit. Ah, just barely. Oh, that was close. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. O- OT and OPJs? Um, I know a few people by that name, if it's me you're asking. Do we know each other by any chance? I'm never entirely certain. Most of the people who show up here are people who actually already know me, so I always like to just check to make sure, because just in case I know you under another name or something like that. No, I don't, but I think I know where this is going, and I think I also know where you're going. Yes, not really particularly interested in this becoming a free space for trolls. Especially such unclever trolls that use some variation of that a fucking joke that's been around for at least the last 40 years. But yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about your girlfriend. Well, let's see. Uh, is your cat walking on your keyboard? I have occasionally had to interpret for my family. I mean, not often. Like, most recent examples, like, well, let's see, there was friends of mine who didn't speak great English. I would have to interpret occasionally for them, but not a whole lot. I interpreted for a lot of people just sort of on a random basis. I think the most recent example of that was on the coach from Santiago de Chile to Lima. There was a young woman from Osaka who didn't speak a word of Spanish and had very little English and didn't understand a thing about what was going on. So I helped her out for the entire 36-hour journey. Yeah, help her navigate everything. Occasionally, I just find myself sort of randomly interpreting for people. Nice to see you, Norm. Oh, and of course I don't mind you asking. Actually, I've been attending a really, really interesting online event for the past few days that's been just speaking of language stuff, because I've been speaking of language stuff a lot the past few days, called the Polyglot Gathering. A good friend of mine told me about it, and I finally decided why not. They were going to have it in Poland, but then, wonderful Weltuntergangspandemie happened, and as a result, they decided to move it online. And it's really the most wonderful event. It's easily the best €25 I've spent in a very long time. Just a great atmosphere, very welcoming. I mean, they have talks about all sorts of just language related topics, about learning language, teaching language, and just specific languages, all sorts of stuff. But then they also have these practice rooms. And the practice rooms are for all sorts of languages. Sometimes for the more popular languages, say like Spanish or German, they divide in between like fluent and non-fluent. But for the less common, less popular languages, say Korean or Hindi or, you know, Vietnamese, for example, they lump them all together. And so it's been really interesting because I've been in the rooms where it's a language I speak without even having to really think much about it, like Spanish or say German, Japanese or Korean, and in rooms where it's languages where I can really just barely manage to get out a sentence because I'm just not very good at them or I'm totally out of practice. And what's been really remarkable to me, it shouldn't be, but it is just how welcoming in all of those cases. I mean, these are people who've never heard of me. And in the rooms where my at home we spoke English. I mean, yeah, my stepfather, who only entered my life, God, what's it, like 10 years now, I guess. He has a little bit of Bavarian and a whole lot of French. He's actually taught French, not a native speaker of it. It was at home, so at home we spoke English. It was amongst friends and at school and everything where I was speaking more German and Spanish than English, and then occasionally other languages as well, because it was a very international sort of school for at least part of the time. And so there were a lot of Vietnamese students, and at one point it was one of the it's really cool actually. I'd mentioned to one of them, we ended up just sort of randomly running into each other, and I mentioned that I was interested in learning Vietnamese, and suddenly I had like 42 people wanting to help me learn Vietnamese because they all thought it was just so cool with somebody who's trying to learn their language. And so at home it was English, and then outside of it was a lot of other things, but mostly the Spanish and the German. Other than that, well, interpreting for my family at restaurants happens occasionally. That's a thing. Interpreting for lots of people at restaurants is a thing in my life. Very often, in fact. Hmm. Oh well, no. I mean, the traditional studying and stuff didn't. I mean, it was the. I mean, traditional studying the way I studied English. Yeah. I mean, for me, German. Yeah. These were largely languages that were just sort of a thing that were part of my life. There were languages where I was really doing sort of very concerted study as well. Like, say, I mean, Russian, which is the one that the first language I really started to, like, I decided to study. Because I just, when I was like 5 years old or so, I just really, really liked the alphabet and wanted to know everything about it. But, yeah. But it was just my social environment was such that those were languages that I was just in constant contact with. And so yeah, it was more than anything just talking with people, hanging out, and then, actually had some decent bookshops so I could get copies of like German and Spanish language magazines and newspapers. I get like Der Spiegel or Süddeutsche or something like that. Hmm. Ah, been talking a lot. I've talked more in the past few days than I did probably in the past several months. It's been great though. Play a rapid one that gives me a little bit more time to actually interact. It's really hard to talk with people when you're playing Blitz, unless you don't mind getting your ass kicked when it was avoidable. And I personally, I kind of mind getting my ass kicked if I can avoid it. I like to actually win at least occasionally. I don't know if I'd go so far as other world. I mean, it was the same, it was the same town. But, yeah, I mean, linguistically, certainly another world. I mean, actually, in a lot of ways, it was a bit of another world, actually. I wouldn't have actually described it exactly that way, but it's not, I mean, it's not entirely all out there. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think you were suggesting I commuted to Alpha Centauri for school. Yes. If anyone's going to commute to Alpha Centauri, I want it to be Elon Musk first. Just get rid of him. He can come back in however many centuries it would take and tell us all about. Yeah, no, no, I understood. I've just literally, I've talked about this so many times in my life, and you're the first person to put it quite that way, so I had to think about it. Finally got it so you can see the chat on my window, and on the first day you can see the chat in on the stream. Since I finally managed to get that to work, of course I end up bombarded with like the world's most ham-fisted trolls. God, get better material, people. The D's nuts thing. I mean, that was an old joke when people were making it in high school. People groaned about it, and that was back in the 90s. But I guess, classics. I guess it's retro. That's what it'll be. Studied in Germany, yes. Um, actually did. I was an exchange student in the 90s in Bavaria and Franconia. I find Franconians are often very insistent on distinguishing themselves from Bavaria, despite the fact that technically they're in Bavaria. Also went back and did a year of uni in Berlin. Also studied in I also did a summer as an exchange student in Japan in 1995. Yeah, I'm beginning not to like this bishop there. I'm behind on material, but I think I'm gonna trade. Or see if he buggers off. That leaves me with a fucking pawn in an annoying place. But, yeah, I don't give a shit. I mean, I've also spent time living in Chile, and I've spent a fair time just, not strictly living, but spent like a couple of months total in Peru and, in Argentina. Oh, you did. Why did you have to do that? That was such a nice position until you pointed out how badly I fucked it up. Now, Spain. I've spent like a total of like I think 3 days in Catalonia, in mostly in Barcelona, and that was so catastrophic that it ended up not being longer. Let me put it this way: my computer liked it so much it decided to stay, and it eloped with my wallet and pretty much everything else that I needed in order to continue the trip or even like do my work or anything like that. And it ended up being just a total catastrophe. But I'd like to go back sometime. I liked what I saw of Barcelona. I saw some amazing bookshops in particular that I did not get to patronize because I didn't have my damn wallet. But yeah, I've spent considerably more time in Latin America than I have in Spain. Fair bit of time I've spent also in Austria. That's just basically hanging out and occasionally visiting friends. Yes, I think my ass is about to be kicked. Yeah, at least get a rook behind this passed pawn. And maybe stick it on the 7th rank just to make life more interesting. Are you hearing me okay, by the way? I've had problems with the audio, so I like to just be sure. Keep trying, you can do. When people say shit to me like that, I'm always not certain. They're taking the piss? Okay, excellent. Yeah. Actually, somebody helped get the audio, help me adjust it, but then I adjusted it again, and so I wanted to be sure. A lot of the time there's just not um yeah, not enough people in here to actually know for sure whether anyone's hearing me. this is... Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll switch over to the Geoguessr for a bit. Let's see. Let's see where we end up. Okay. Wind turbines and flatness. This, I feel like maybe North America here, but it really covers a lot of ground. Just out of curiosity, you say you read that? This surprises me a bit because I'm not sure where you might have read that. And there's one very specific source that I'm... Oh, hey there! There's one very specific source I'm really hoping it's not. So I'm kind of curious, when you say you read it, where you read it. Okay, not North America. Blue signs and... Auksudis. Okay. We are either in Lithuania or Latvia. I think I know what website it is, and it is actually a far-right hoax website. And I've actually considered there's so much complete bullshit about me on that website, and not to mention that I've actually considered instructing a solicitor to get it taken down. I mean, the really fucked up thing, since you saw it, I'm just going to address it. You could get the impression that I've ever had interactions with this particular far-right asshole. I've never had a single interaction with her. I've never had exchanged a single word with her, never said anything about her other than to point out what you can see if you actually look at her old blog, and you look at, her, profile pictures that were, until a couple of years ago, public on Facebook, that she was involved in the far right before she decided to become a TERF. And that pissed her off so much that she decided to write this entire fucking thing. And it is... Yeah, I mean, I've actually really considered... I hate British libel law with a passion, and I really feel uncomfortable with the idea of using it. But in this case, I mean, there's certain things in there that, I mean... Yeah, the way she says certain completely false statements about me, I have a feeling they might... could actually really endanger my safety in ways, and so I do kind of go back and forth about actually just contacting some solicitors and getting them to tell her to take the fucking thing down or else, which I could. Yeah, she's a horrible piece of shit of a human being. She is an excrement sculpture. Her name, Jay, you walked in on this, so just to catch you up, there's a TERF by the name of Maria McLaughlin. And she did not take kindly to the fact that I pointed out that she defended the EDL and had a history of appearing at anti-Muslim demonstrations before she decided to get on the TERF bandwagon. And so she wrote some wild shit about me. She clearly dedicated some time to it too, as payback. And apparently this is where apparently Norm has encountered this page. Yeah, I mean, there's she's a horrible fucking person. If you look up here, I'm going to type this in the chat. EDL UAF WTF. This is her old blog. This is a title of an article in her old blog where, well after it was clear that the EDL were just straight up Nazis, she was defending them. And it wasn't the last time that she did something like that. She was very big into this. She even kind of admits it, even as she's saying that I'm lying for pointing it out. Yeah. Well, I meant there's sort of the generalist far right. You know, you're undeclared for a while, then you declare a major. I mean, sure, big thing was like anti-Muslim stuff for a while. Of course, she defends herself by saying that she also worked for fucking Morningstar, but that doesn't say much considering where they stand on trans rights. I mean, they're at least as bad as all the other fucking websites. As the fucking, I mean, websites, media outlets in Britain, none of them are good. Actually, the really weird thing is that Metro, which is the Daily Mail's transit rag, just a free thing. I actually did. I actually did email them. They said it wasn't TOS, even though their TOS are very specific on this, but they don't want to get involved, which is why, I mean, I think if I want to get the thing taken down, and this is the first time somebody who otherwise is not entirely familiar with me comes and to me having seen that. And that actually kind of is very strongly tipping the scales in favor of me actually just contacting some libel solicitors and bombarding her with writs. I mean, there's at the very least one claim on there. I mean, plus there are bits of that where it's like there are things that I just, I want the whole thing gone, and there are bits of it that actually make me fear for my safety a bit, and I think I'm probably going to end up, like, just contacting some libel solicitors. I mean, if you've seen it, other people have seen it, and probably potential clients of mine, translation clients of mine, have seen it as well if they look me up, and that's not good. Yeah, I mean, I've been going back and forth on that for a long time. Oh, God. Well, I mean, you didn't exactly make me uncomfortable. It's more that you you reminded me that somebody else had decided to make me very uncomfortable. So I don't entirely hold it. In fact, it's actually kind of useful that you brought this up because it confirmed that people are actually seeing that shit, and I kind of needed to know that in order to know really whether I was going to how to go forward. I'm going to be back in like 5 minutes, so I'm just going to take a quick break. Back in 5. Yeah, just need to get a little bit of fresh air, have a smoke, and I will be back, and we'll find out where exactly in Latvia or Lithuania this flatness and wind turbines is. Okay, fuck it. You know, it's gonna do Geoguessr, but you brought an important thing up, and so this is gonna be a very special episode of Dunking and Debunking, in which we look at that article I was mentioning to you. It's just so, yeah, and read her views on the EDL into the Hansard of YouTube. Here we go. Here's the article. This is her blog. This is 2009. Now, the reason it says EDL UAF WTF is, of course, because the Socialist Workers' Party front group Unite Against Fascism. It really should stand for Useless Against Fascism. They suck, actually. But even they realized that these that these were Nazis and that you needed to protest against them at this point. So it was obvious to anyone who actually cared. So here we go. So here, let's look at this totally not far-right sympathetic content here. I see that both the English Defence League and their opponents in Unite Against Fascism, UAF, are in the news again after a bunch of EDL supporters turned up in Manchester today to stage a protest against Islamic extremism. Apparently, the UAF didn't like it, so it staged a counter-demonstration. Okay. Anyway, aware that the messages of the newly emerged EDL, which seems to have evolved from a group calling themselves Casuals United. See, she's so fucking posh. She doesn't understand that Casuals United, that was a racist football hooligans organization, and the Stop Islamification of Europe group have resonated with at least a few nice, respectable, secularist folk. Yeah. I decided to take a closer look at what they and their opponents are about. Oh, well, see, and now we've got here's the evidence. She's got the smoking gun here. Well, the smoking absence of a gun. The English Defence League put up a placard saying that they are not the BNP and they're not racist. Well, fucking case closed, isn't it? For their part, the EDL leaders are trying very hard to send out a message that they are not racist. Oh, yeah. We do not want innocent Muslims being victimized or abused. I mean, she just takes this shit at their word. She's just platforming them completely uncritically. As for the UAF, it seems to consider any opposition to alien religious and cultural practices to be racist, and they apply the label to any group their Muslim supporters feel threatened by. Skepticism makes a party pooper out of one. Yeah, yes, I mean, or just the shit itself, I mean. Yeah, that is exactly whose it is. That is her website. That's Maria McLaughlin. Yeah, that is literally the only thing you might have read that would have that I can think of where you would have found where you would have heard anything like that. And yeah, that's Maria McLaughlin. That's her blog. And previously, I'd been consoling myself with the fact that it has a low page rank. Like, I mean, but yeah, she doxed me for pointing out that she likes fash. At the time of writing, I haven't seen any more videos of today's demo, but according to this televised report from the Islam News channel about the Birmingham demo in August, the EDL supporters were relatively peaceful and civilized, in stark contrast to their opponents in the UAF, whose numbers were inflated by a couple of hundred young Muslims. Yes, because they inflated because the idea that young Muslims could actually be part of UAF is, of course, impossible. And who behaved like unhinged, aggressive fuckwits. I'm not naive, however, and although I currently feel able to defend the EDL's stated fucking racist objectives from the charges of racism and fascism, I'm not suggesting that none of the people who turn up to EDL demonstrations are racists or bigots or BPNP voters. I bet loads are. Well, then why the fuck would you be objecting to an anti-fascist group, even as shit an anti-fascist group as UAF, let's be honest, standing up to them if you yourself fucking admit that that loads of them are probably Nazis? The EDL's national organizer has friends on Facebook who just happen to have identical names to people on their BNP membership list that was leaked in November 2008. Yeah, I mean, so obviously we can just take their word when they say that when they say they've got nothing to do with the BNP. I'm quite patriotic myself and not racist at all. Yes, I can tell. The UAF and the EDL are two rival tribes, both locked into a confrontational mentality which prevents them from playing nicely together and trying to engage with each other like sensible grown-ups. Like, seriously. And this is, she's like pissed off that I point out that she's anything to do with the far right? Oh, well, because she's a TERF. That's why she thought she had the right to dox me. I mean, that's what TERFs do. I mean, and I have to say, apart from that particularly ridiculous claim where she says something to the effect of, if I'm ever stabbed, that's who did it. It's like, I mean, like, really kind of catch yourself on, because I've never been, to my knowledge, within 10 miles of this woman. I couldn't even fucking recognize her. I've never exchanged words with her. Literally, the only interaction that she can point out isn't even an interaction. It's just me pointing out all the fucking far-right fascist shit she's involved in, historically, that she found it offensive. And she puts that up there, which is like the sort of thing that can get a person killed, or at the very least. Oh well, I don't like turfs doxing anyone. I certainly don't like turfs doxing me. I think that everyone really that's something that people need to be able to talk about on their own fucking terms. Me, anyone else, and she's just an absolutely horrible fucking human being who's doing that specifically to incite violence against me, and the only people who are likely to deliberately like follow that fucking website are people who would be interested in engaging in it. Well, and cops. So I mean, what I'm not comfortable with is the existence of that fucking thing. Really, and the existence of its author and people like her also makes me kind of uncomfortable. I mean, because their whole thing is inciting like violence against people who are already completely thoroughly demonized, particularly in British society. I mean, I spent much of the last several years there, and I can tell you, it is fucking off the hook. I mean, as bad as has occasionally been here in recent years, like especially with all these fucking anti-trans bills that they're throwing in the, particularly in the southern states, but unfortunately not exclusively. I mean, that's bad. But it's like the media haven't adopted a sort of unified line on it, and so there is actually, I will say, more decency on this subject in the media here, even despite the assholes like Jesse Singal and his little confidential group of journos who've decided that one of their missions in life is to prevent trans journalists being allowed to write about trans issues. But it's still nowhere near as bad. It's like absolutely terrifying in Britain. Because the entire media spectrum, from the socialist Morning Star, I mean, at best they're social democrats, who, I mean, otherwise would be the newspaper that I would actually be patronizing, to be honest, because otherwise they're actually pretty on point on a lot of things, at least more so than The Guardian, The Independent, The Telegraph, the fucking, the Express, The Mail, The Times, and The Observer. But, I mean, the reality is there is literally no media outlet that takes, like, just a basic humane position on that, except to some extent Metro, of all things. And that I don't get. I mean, it doesn't even actually make a whole lot of sense to me. Yeah. Well, that's basically all I'm interested in dedicating to that article of hers. I mean, yeah, in short, she's a fucking shit person, and she does what shit people do. And I really must do something about that fucking. I mean, I hesitate to think how many. Yeah, I mean, like they decided to have an editorial, The Guardian View. And the Guardian view was that trans rights are a threat to cis women. That was their official line, and I mean, good. There's some decent people in Guardian US, but it's the same underlying entity. And honestly, I kind of have to look with an enormous amount of side eye at anyone who's taking money from them after that, especially if they claim to be on side with trans issues. Oh God. Yes, still being. It's like not just still. I would say. I mean, we're looking to. Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at a major escalation of that discrimination, and like the presence of a vice president in the U.S. who has form for torturing trans women, or at least going to court to defend the right to torture trans women in California. Yeah, that does not make me exactly full of confidence that this is going to be that there's going to be any full-throated defense of trans people here. Not from this fucking government. God, I mean, it just does not look like a very good time on this, and it's actually it's actually been very interesting in one respect because a lot of these turf groups, because it's been harder for them to find their normal sort of habitat in like feminist circles and left groups to a great extent. They is like revolutionary leftist groups are tending, for the most part, with certain very prominent exceptions, CPGBML, to be taking a decent line on this. But yeah. So the result is that the turfs have actually started to really kind of go a little bit more mask off on all of this, and become a lot more open about their like ties to, evangelical right wing groups, for example. And oh god, yeah. I mean, it's God, such horrible people. I try to keep an eye on them from now and then, just the same way I like to keep an eye on Fash. But it is like actually traumatic to read their discussions and the level of just bullshit that's in there because they managed to somehow make themselves out to be victims in all of this. Guys, like it's fucking painful. In fact, it's so painful. I could continue with Geoguessr, or I could take the piss out of Caleb Maupin. Or take the piss out of PragerU. That's something I'm also open to doing, and be curious what the two of you think. Geoguessr or Caleb Maupin or like fucking PragerU. Okay, we'll do it. PragerU it is. Speaking of turfs and bullshit. Let's see what we've got. Okay. We've got PragerU on Watergate. What the? What the fuck? We've got Dennis Prager trying to deconstruct John Oliver on Israel and Palestine. The Candace Owens show. Oh, that's right. This is where they freak out about critical race theory. Fuck it, let's do the Watergate one. Oh, premieres in 31 hours. We're not going to do the Watergate one, apparently. Israel, the world's most moral army. Oh, okay, fuck it. Yeah, that's topical. Let's, see. Oh, God, who is this guy? Oh, Richard Kemp. What was his deal? Remember, he was involved in some seriously racist shit. But I don't remember what the deal was with him. Oh, yes, got it. There we go. Yes, this guy is just as serious, just fucking white supremacist. Says things like, most Muslims are trained to hate Israel. Trained. Yeah, okay, there we go. Well, there's time for a little bit of both. I'll do this and then do that. Yes, and because he's from the British Army. I mean, they never lie. Ballard Murphy. Oh, well, then there's some bona fides right there. So basically, he's an uncharged war criminal. Present where? Because he are paid to say that. Oh, well, yes, because, I mean, decent countries with Western values would never commit atrocities, slavery, or the Holocaust. The invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, the colonization of Ireland, basically the entire rest of the fucking world. Yeah. But yeah, so you're convincing me already. Yeah, I mean that's an interesting comparison because when Belgium was a major imperialist power, actively colonizing Africa, they had about as much interest in war as Israel. But because they just had a much larger range, they murdered a hell of a lot more people. But Israel's working on it. But an interesting comparison there. Yeah, yeah, let's see, 1948, 1953, 1967, 1982 when they invaded Lebanon and then occupied it for decades thereafter. Like, in fact, this is such a pile of bullshit. There's a book that is a meta-analysis. This is from a mainstream elite Israeli strategic think tank where the guy was commissioned to do a study on Israel, on how Israel gets into wars. And his conclusion, it wasn't just his conclusion, he did a comprehensive review of all of the historical scholarship on Israel's wars. The guy's name is Ze'ev Ma'ovs. The book is called Defending the Holy Land. And what he came to is the conclusion that with the possible, this is quoting, but it's quoting from memory, possible exception of the War of Independence, every war that Israel's been involved in has been either a war of choice or a war of folly. Like, he literally could not find a single example where he could unqualifiedly, and this is not, this isn't an anti-Zionist. This guy isn't with B'Tselem or, Adallah or any of the other human rights groups or something like that. This guy is the with Israel's version of kind of the Rand Corporation, and he comes to the conclusion there's absolutely no example of a war Israel's been involved in that you could unqualifiedly say was defensive. Well, I mean, Belgium has been invaded and occupied twice in the past 100 years. Does that count? Ah, God. When fundamentalist Christian racists say shit like that, being Jewish myself, that makes me terribly uncomfortable. Like, okay, nobody has unsurpassed moral standards. Some people's moral standards have been surpassed more than others. But I mean, but of course, so far he hasn't actually stated a fact yet. It's all just been slogans. Yes, in fact, as an anti-Semite. Yes, small. Okay, so let's just see. Okay, the size of Israel's armed forces per capita. This is the small army. And out of how many countries did this check? Was this 122? This looks fairly comprehensive. Yes, 100 out of 170 countries, Israel is in place 5 because apart from the fact that there is general conscription for both men and women, you can't even get married in Israel if you haven't done military service. If you're Jewish, that is. If you're Palestinian, they don't even want you to do military service. Um, you have a significant segment of the population is also involved on some level of reserve duty because the reserve obligations that they have there go for an extended period of time. So yeah, so Israel actually, by population, has one of the largest militaries in the world, with 25.42 soldiers per thousand people as of 2005. The only other countries that are larger are, well, there's North Korea, Eritrea, Singapore, Brunei, and Bahrain. And several of those have smaller populations. And one of them is North Korea. Hello. Welcome, Deepanshu, if I'm make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Do we know each other, or is this just your first time and you just happened by? Either way, welcome. We're right now looking at some PragerU bullshit. Let me full screen it. Okay, so yeah, small army, except it's in the top 5 worldwide per capita. So they have other skills, is the idea. And what the hell is this audio here? I've got an ad someplace and I don't even know where it is. Well, that's yeah. I mean, it's true. That really was a indicative of the moral level of the Israeli army when they eradicated multiple entire families, destroyed huge amounts of farmland, and otherwise massacred people in a place that is already at that time was already practically uninhabitable. Well, in other words, there's never been a purely defensive war because, see, the problem there is Israel's occupying Gaza, and Israel's engaged in constant acts of war against Gaza because blockades are an act of war, which is why Israel has yet to actually comply with an actual ceasefire with the Palestinians in Gaza. Gaza is just part of the occupied Palestinian territory. There's this effort to treat it as another country entirely, but it isn't. It is not. It is inseparable. An attack on the West Bank is also an attack on Gaza, and in fact, the rocket fire, which didn't kill anyone in 2014, was in response to Israeli attacks in the West Bank. Well, gee, if the U.S. State Department calls somebody a terrorist, then clearly, I mean, why? I mean, with the references like that, why would you ever even feel the need to check further? See, and here's one of those things that's always kind of fascinating. Because on the one hand, Israel and their apologists, like this dickhead Richard Kemp, who was sort of a professional Israel apologist, love to talk about how precise, how surgical their precision of their attacks is. They'll say, 99% of our attacks hit their intended target. And then you point out, oh, well, so the schools, the hospitals, all that stuff, the chicken farm, the sewage treatment plant. Oh, no, 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 that didn't, that wasn't the intended target. How dare you? That's anti Semitic to even suggest as much. These tunnels, of course, are used to get food and medicine smuggled into Gaza because it's the only way to ensure people's fucking survival. It's worth remembering that the Warsaw Ghetto, they did the exact same thing. Although they didn't have to dig the tunnels for the most part, they had the sewers. Yeah, I mean, I call it deliberately eradicating entire extended families. That's kind of extraordinary. Um, well, if everybody would prefer to do Geoguessr, I can switch over right now, or I can finish this, which is how long have we got left in this fucking thing? Like two, yeah, might fairly fairly soon, depending on how much. Actually, let's see. Is he gonna? Yeah, bomb threats. And telling them to evacuate to areas that they immediately bombed when people arrived there, having evacuated. The IRA did that, except the IRA, when they did that, they did not actually set things up to bomb the area that they told people to evacuate to. So, actually, kind of, the IRA who you, Colonel Camp, were fighting, yeah, they actually held themselves to a higher standard than Israel. It's not hard. Again, the IRA, literally. And no evidence ever emerged to support this. The Israeli Defense Ministry is right in the middle of a heavily populated residential area. Yeah, there's no evidence of that. Yeah, God, yes, there is a term amongst racists. Israel claims that it doesn't have to follow the Geneva Convention. Okay, switching over to... Okay, that was enough of that bullshit. Geoguessr time. Okay, we're someplace near Kretinga and Auxudis. Well, we're actually within a kilometer of Auxudis. I'm not sure whether that's Lithuania or Latvia, but I'm sure we will find out soon. Now is Geoguessr, and hello and welcome YT Plays as well. Yes, I divide this stream up between debunking right-wing bullshit and chess and Geoguessr, so... Okay. Someplace very flat. Vilnius. Okay, what's the other Kretinga? Kaunas, Alytus. So... Oh, Kretinga. Here we go, right on the coast. So, that's Kretinga. And how far are we away from Kretinga again? 16 kilometers. We are 1 kilometer away from Auxudis in some direction. And it's all going to be on the same road as well, I would assume. Kretigodis, Kvetiae, Prishmantiae, Liepna, Paraze, Darvidai. Have a punt. Yeah, 36 miles, not too bad. Okay. Residential area. Oh, there are bins. Very council looking. But you never know what's going to be on a bin. And often it's Republic Republic sanitation. Okay, it does not council bins then. Well, it didn't look like council bins. I mean, it didn't. This looks like North America, maybe California. Major city off in the distance. Palm trees. Definitely not Canada. Could this be LA? 10th and Hassett. Yes, this is continuing to have a distinctly southwestern feeling to it. Too faded to say where this is. It's a pity. It's a dead end. Thank you for letting me know in advance, otherwise I might have ended up going down it. Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's confirmation that's the U.S. Postal Service right there. Okay, we got a main street. We maybe get a sign that gives a little bit more information. Bump. Well, that's enlightening. But the street says hump. There's an active disagreement here between the street and the sign. The street says hump. The sign says bump. When will PragerU ever resolve this controversy for us? Answer the hard questions. Canosa and 6th. None of these streets are meaning anything to me so far. But moving towards the city center, we're going to have some chance of finding out where the hell we are. I'm still... okay. Still thinking Southern California, or maybe... Canosa and Rexford. Oh, wait, there's a name of that complex there. Let's see, what's this estate called? Beverly Plaza. Says nothing to me. It's certainly not Beverly Hills. Paradise Village Dental. Take me down to the Paradise Village, where the grass is green and my teeth get fillage. Oh, well, I'm going to be wrapping up after this, actually, because I only really do this from 12 to 2, and there's still more Polyglot Gathering stuff, so I'm probably going to be checking that out. But thank you for showing up. It's very nice to see you. I do this every Friday and Saturday night, 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sometimes I start a little bit later, sometimes I end a bit later. But I hope to see you again. Best to Penny and the others. Oh, that looks like public transport. RTC. Southern Nevada. Is this Canosa? Could this be Vegas? Yes, it's Vegas. .2 miles. This is the second time that I've been on stream playing Geoguessr and they've taken me to a residential area in Vegas. Okay. Uniforms don't look US. The street doesn't look like Europe. Warm climate. Oh, we got a bus. Love public transport. It's Maroros Coach. Let's find out where this comes. Did I misspell that? I'm pretty sure it says Maroros. Useless. Okay. Sonnet. Oh 115141400. Belgravia. Let's see if we can zoom in on that sign. Billions for new mine in Cape. We are in South Africa, I think. Fuck all results. Okay, but I'm pretty sure this is South Africa. Oh, that's a council-type vehicle. Come on, where'd you go? Anything useful's been blurred out. Deutsch Südwest Pub. Could this be Namibia? Okay. No, this is North Cape. Kimberley. Jihoafricka Republika. Okay. North Cape and... Okay. Kimberley. Belgravia. There we go. Yes, we are in Kimberly. Yes, we passed a sign that said Belgravia right at the beginning of this, and it was not really narrowing things down much at the time, because there are a fair number of Belgravias in the world. But thanks to Deutsch Südwest Pub, let's say it's somewhere around here. 528 yards. Almost certainly Japan. Yep, Japan. Enoki Hidetaka 公明と防災減災探偵 0120221111. What was that number again? Fuck it out. 1111. 22.探偵会社事務料相談でもどこにあるのか平日ご質問のみでSeit der Junggerlei so some someplace東京長南とか新宿 OK 東京へ行こう新宿どうかな 1,503 yards in Tokyo, not bad. Because Tokyo, if you didn't know, has streets with no names and house numbers that mean nothing. And with that triumph, I am going to wrap up for tonight and see what's going on at the Polyglot Gathering. It was nice to have you all here. See you next week.